Good evening, YouTube and Periscope. DutyRon checking in on Veterans Day 2020 with a broadcast and video specially dedicated to our very fine men and women of the military who protects our freedoms at home and abroad. Guys, my name is DutyRon, retired NYPD detective, 20 plus years in law enforcement. And I'm joined tonight by a great friend. You guys, he doesn't need any introduction, and I'll go into that in a few minutes. But I'm joined by Dr. Darrin Porcher, who is a Army veteran. And on Veterans Day, we give thanks and praise to all of our great friends. I want to say a special thank you to my Patreon supporters, my channel members, and all of the people who subscribe and positively interact on the live streams. Hello, Dookie 4000, Marie, Dawn Marie, B. Higgs is here. All the moderators are checking in. Thank you so much, Angel, for being in here. And a special thank you to any of our former military, anybody who is active or has been in the military and in service. So thank you so much for each and every one of you coming on in here. This is going to be a very quick broadcast. I just wanted to come live and show my appreciation for my brothers and sisters in the military. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you Dr. Darrin Porcher. There he is, Dr. D. Thank you so much. I know you're a busy guy and this is your day, but you're still out there on the circuit doing your thing. And it's just a pleasure to have you in every time. I get so many emails and kind words about you. So thank you for being in here and thank you for your service, Darrin.
Well, thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. As always, it's a pleasure appearing on the podcast. Today is a very significant day in terms of my history. I go back to, just becoming a member on active duty in the military back in 1986. At that time, Ronald Reagan was the president. So I guess I'm showing my age, so to speak. Like I was on active duty when Iran-Contra happened, man.
Wow.
Wow. So it goes back to it, and it's there were a lot of things that I looked at in the, I want to say the heat of the moment, and I took them as, wow, this is a bunch of bullshit. But as I look back, these were some very monumental times. I was on active duty when we bombed Libya. I was on active duty when we invaded Panama in the crusade for finding General Manuel Noriega back in December of 1989. When I look back at that, I just said to myself, damn, these are some long days. Man, what the fuck? I was pissed. I wasn't happy, man.
I didn't sign up for this.
Yeah, well, how can I put this to you? Armed conflicts is something that happens throughout the course of military service, but it's kind of in the back of your mind. So, that was one of the things that I look back and I'm like, damn, I remember I was miserable. I was miserable on the invasion of Panama, but
in an uncomfortable country where there's no real toilets to use and all kinds of goodness.
No. They had a complete infrastructure, but
really?
It was one of these things. But yeah, Panama is it was, the infrastructure was sound, but I mean it was very different in Iraq or Afghanistan for that matter, because in going to Iraq, we actually created the infrastructure. And, it's so funny because I speak to so many people that have gone over there years later, whereas they stayed in hardened facilities, meaning a fully erected stature, such as a building with with a hard floor, things like that. That wasn't what it was initially. Initially, it was you were dropped in the sand. We created a housing in tents. Well, we started off in tents, then we subsequently created pallets, and it evolved into the state or the infrastructure that's in play now. I mean, a large contingent of the military forces have since rotated out of Iraq, but in Afghanistan, it's the same thing. And so it's a very different mission now. Like a lot of times I hear people, they speak to what's happening in Iraq and Afghanistan. It's not what you think. I mean, granted, it's whenever you're in a theater of war, it's dangerous. But in terms of bullets being fired every day, that's not what it was. You went out on missions every day. And to be honest with you, the majority of the time I went out, I didn't see much. I really didn't. I mean, there were days when it was like, oh shit, this is like, this thing is really manifesting into something crazy. But by and large, the times that I want to say The times that were most dangerous were primarily the convoy ops, believe it or not. Like, just going from, traveling from point A to point B,
Point B,
because
yeah.
you had a lot of IDs that lined the roadways, so to speak. So what would happen is you had people that would take pop shots at the convoy. But it was in Iraq, everyone can own a weapon. We didn't have like Second Amendment and any other bullshit that we have in
Right.
play
There was
here.
no pistol
So
permits. Everybody
right,
just,
right.
yeah.
So what would happen is, let's say, for argument's sake, if you're doing a convoy op and you come through an area and you incur fire, sniper fire, and you turn around and you want to go into that area to see if you can eradicate the threat, and you get into an area and everyone is walking around with AK-47s. So it's not like, oh
Wow.
man, yo, what is this? And he's got a
Yeah.
gun. That's what people carried AK-47s the same way they carry newspapers here. So
Wow.
the best way that I found was, when you had like people were taking pop shots at the convoy, it's just drive right through it. Get out of it as quick as possible, and that's kind of what it was. The IDs were a problem. We had a team. We had teams of engineers that did the troubleshooting for to detect the IDs. And one of the problems that I had is I go back to the Clinton administration. They didn't allow us the necessary logistics to fortify or up armor the vehicles that we had. So that being said, and the best way I can describe this to you is, let's say in Hummer or whatever you're using at that point in time, those vehicles weren't up armored, so to speak. So what we did was, there was a lot of people actually laid plates down in the Humvees and things to that effect.
Wow.
And so they just didn't give the logistics that were necessary, I felt, for the theater of war. And it goes back to the Bush administration, George H. Bush. The plan was to train the northern Iraqis and the Kurds to come into to go south into Iraq and overtake and embark upon a civil war. That wasn't something that came to fruition, because what happened was, the Iraqis, first we had the bombing back in 1990. I think we had maybe 1,000 bombers, man, that flew over Baghdad and bombed the place, right? And then eventually the Iraqi delegation brokered a ceasefire accord with the United States. Well, it wasn't just the United States. I want to say the United Nations, because there were a contingent of different nations that fell within the coalition to invade Iraq. So they brokered the ceasefire accord, and what happened was, those people that were trained, the Kurds up in northern Iraq, that were
those were Turkish Kurds, right?
Well, it was a combination. You had that. You had. I want to use the term. I don't want to. You had to, because we had our own terms that we use.
I know.
I don't want people to say.
All right. Well, let's hold that back. We'll hold that back for the podcast.
The short version of it was, the Army Special Forces trained a lot of those people for the incursion into southern Iraq to hit Baghdad. And so when we pulled out in the wake of the ceasefire, I never forget the guy. I believe he was the foreign minister, Tariq Aziz. He was at the forefront of that, the negotiation between the United States and Iraq. All of those people, those Kurds that were trained, we kind of left them. And this was under George H. Bush, and Saddam Hussein slaughtered all of them after we left. And, that was just I thought that was real bad business on the part of the United States, because I just don't think that we did what was necessary to fulfill our obligation to those people that aligned themselves with the proliferation of democracy in that country. So, that being said, the first one, it was what it was. It was, it's the weirdest thing. It was kind of like a trench warfare, the best way I can describe it. The World War I, where you had these gigantic trenches that were dug in the desert, and people fortified positions within these trenches. And then, at the time, General Norman Schwarzkopf was the leader of Norman, right? Yeah, he was the leader of operations in that particular theater. So this is sad. It's funny, but it's sad. So you had a lot of the Iraqi forces that were dug into these trenches, and we were having the air, I want to say the air assault it wasn't as effective as we thought it was going to be, because they flew like maybe 1,000 bombers. They bombed a bunch of high priority targets, ammo dump
Right.
sticks, to that effect. But it didn't necessarily rattle the ship the way we had anticipated. So
Yeah.
you had a lot of this is where the ground war came into play, and so you had the fortification in these trenches, so to speak, and
Yeah.
so the Iraqis weren't coming out of there. So what we did? We used like the engineers. We used divisions of engineers, and what we did was we just dumped sand from the desert into these trenches and, literally speaking, buried these people alive.
Stop it.
Now it sounds horrific and it sounds very inhumane, but at the same token, what it did was it reduced the casualty rate. But what was
Right.
more interesting in the Iraq, in
They
the
weren't
war in
buried
Iraq,
alive
was
in the sand. You
they
just
were
put the
buried
sand in
alive.
there and it
They were
just,
buried alive. They wouldn't come
wow.
out. They
Wow.
wouldn't come out. So it was either you send the ground forces in with the attempt to police, and you had a lot of tough people who had like Republican Guard.
Right.
The one thing that they had that was happening in Iraq was Saddam Hussein boasted of having a high manpower count in connection with his ground force. But a lot of people didn't know what they did was the Iraqi military, they just went all over, and whoever was of military age, they took
Right.
those people and they placed them into the military. They gave them uniforms, no training, gave them AK-47s and said, hey, look, you know what you got to do what you got to.
Yeah.
And it was just, it was just a fractured command structure as it related to that, because you had people like, you had the Ba'ath Party loyalists, and you had different contingents throughout that,
Right.
the Iraqi
Yeah.
military, and they were sound. Believe it or not, they had a very sound military fighting force when you look at the war that the Iraqis had with Iran years prior to that. But
Right.
they just didn't have the troop count going into the war after the invasion of Kuwait. They knew that the expectation was the United States and the coalition was going to invade. So what they did was they just took every military, every male that was of a military age, threw them in uniform, and they put them on a battlefield. It just
Wow.
didn't work, because in an armed conflict, you need trained soldiers to effectively either counter or advance a threat. And that
Right.
wasn't what was happening there. So it was just an unfortunate situation. So
Right.
that being said, you look back at like what happened there, and it's like, man, wow, when I tell you that they buried these people alive, that's because they weren't coming out.
Yeah.
There was no one was making any moves. So that's what happened. So that being said, you look at a lot of what happened over there, which was the significant turning point in the theater of war that I saw in Iraq that was very different than what happened in, let's say, Panama, was the use of the Predator drones. Like in the past, we never really utilized the Predator drones the way we do now. And it's kind of interesting because the CIA was the primary faction that utilized the Predator drones in Iraq at that particular time. It's now translated into the military. I want to say, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. They're more so the driving conductor of the utilization of the drones. But back then, the CIA used them, and I just thought that it was just an amazing tool that was underused, because it no longer harms the flesh of an American soldier going into combat. So I think that there was some really good things that we learned there. Then and just give you what my experience is. I was an S1, S2, S3. I was an intel officer. I was a supply officer. I was an executive officer. I performed a multitude of different functions, personnel. And I look back at what the military was then compared to now. Like
I was going to
a
just
lot
ask you
of this
that.
stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of this stuff, I'll tell you, my grip on things now are very different. I mean, I've been out for, I want to say now, man, 16 years? I've been out of the reserves. I mean, initially I was on active duty, then I went into the reserve component. And because, simultaneously as working as a reservist, because you and I were company members in the academy, and I didn't do any reserve drills while I was in the police academy. But, after leaving the academy, I still did, 1 weekend a month deployments and things to that effect. And the one thing that I like right now, for me to step in, so much has changed, I want to say my mindset in the theater of war is highly archaic in comparison to what's being utilized now. There are a lot more joint service operations that are being conducted now, whereas in the past, when I was there, it wasn't it. There was a clear delineation of the Air Force was here, the Army was there, the Marines were here, and the Navy was there. But now you have a lot more joint forced operations. And I want to say technological innovations have tremendously advanced. So when we look at the intel component in terms of how they're able to grasp and assess what is actually happening on the ground, it's leaps and bounds ahead now compared to what it was back then. We had a lot of rudimentary means on how we were trying to get people. Like, let me give you an example. We had a list of people that were either terrorists or high value targets, so to speak. And there were many people that we didn't even have pictures for. We just had a name written down. Like, do you know Ahmed Ali Hussein or Ahmed Muhammad? And I'm just giving you these names as an example, but there was no description. It was, okay, this person lived in, let's say, south of Baghdad, or, depending on where they were. But it wasn't really a lot of the intel that we had was not strong. It was highly unstructured from the beginning when we look back at, 92 and moving forward. But that being said, I say to myself, man, it's just amazing that more of us didn't lose our lives. But it wasn't that everyday armed conflict the way people think. People think that as soon as you wake up, there's bullets flying over your bed. And it wasn't like that.
Bombs going off everywhere.
No, it was not like that. I mean, there were days that did occur. But by and large, I want to say the gross majority of my time was boredom, finding things to do. And unfortunately, boredom is the devil's playground. And then you found a lot of things that people were doing that were inappropriate, so to speak, while they were over there. So, and I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave that for where it is, or what it's worth.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, you know what? There's a lot of questions coming through, and we're having a little bit of trouble with the internet gods with the live stream, but that's no big deal. People can catch the replay. But a lot of people were asking, and I was looking and glancing over at the chat, and people wanted to know, like, how many years in total did you serve in the military?
22.
22 years. And then you had the 20 years after that in the New York City.
Well, no. It didn't play out like that. Yeah, I would be like 60-something years old. No, what happened was I was 19. I went into the military in 1986. And so I did 4 years on active duty. So from 1986 to 1990, active duty time. Yeah. I came off of active duty in 1990. I worked at the United Nations for a year. But while I worked at the United Nations for that year, that's when the invasion of Iraq occurred. So then I went into the police academy in April of 1991. So the rest of my time in the military, I want to say the 18 years, consisted of reserve time. But with the reserves, you had the rotations like everyone else, the 1 year rotations, 2 year, depending upon, some people I know people stay there for 5 years, in good situations. If any of your chat members were over there, the one thing that they'll remember is Brown and Root. That was the caterer. That was like you get steaks and lobsters when Brown and Root was doing the catering. Those were great days. So
those are great days. Yeah,
those are great days.
Another thing too, I heard you mention in one of your interviews today. I think it was on Fox News. You're explaining that back when you first started, you were being trained by Vietnam veterans, right?
Right. Well, what happened was back in '86, a lot of the senior NCOs were prior Vietnam veterans, because you remember the Vietnam War ended in 1975. So 1975, 1976. So I went in '86. So you figure like 10 years later, you had a lot of these people that were maybe draftees. They were now mid-level or senior NCOs. So they were kind of at the forefront in providing direction and policy.
Awesome. Yeah. And that's, like when I started with the police department, and because you started at the same time that I did, it was great to get trained by the old timers from the 70s.
Well, no, that could go two ways, Ron.
I got valuable information.
You want to use these elevators and these staircases to your benefit. Camera-free zones of where you want to hold court.
But I remember the general consensus from the old timers, you know, although that some of them had bad stuff that would, you know, bad ideas that could get you in trouble that wouldn't necessarily get them in trouble. But they but they gave good information about keeping yourself safe. The kind of like, you know, you got to get home to your family kind of thing. And I remember, you know, you got that from the old timers, the guys from the 70s, and some of them were in the late 60s on the job. So, you know, I remember Eddie Moore from the PSA2 used to say, hey, brother, you know, the main thing is to get home and sign out at the end of the tour. And that carries on to today, to all the guys today. So it's a great thing. But, you know, I want to say a special thank you to Paul Peck Drywall. I have a whole bunch of his merch that I'm going to wear and put on during one of my live streams. He's a drywall contractor down in Florida. Thank you so much for sending me the merch. You hooked me up. I see you here in the chat. Josh, the producer, is in the chat, and also quite a few other channel members, and everybody's saying hello and thanking you for your service. I want to quickly put up a picture here. I'm not sure if everybody's seeing it, but I'm going to get it up there. Let me make sure that gets in on the stream. Is it in? Are we seeing the picture of Dr. D?
That is a picture of, if any of your people on are military members, they'll understand. If they're not, that's okay. This is something we have referred to as a dining in. A dining in is a formal dinner where it's only military members. And so there's a series of customs and courtesies that you need to follow. So that was an officer's dining in. So everyone that you see in this picture, they're all officers. And they basically, there's a way that you sit, the way that you address people and things to that effect. So that's what an officer's dining in would it consist of.
Awesome photo. You guys all look happy. You look like you're getting some good grub out of the exchange there, I would hope. And here's a picture of you that I look at this and I look at it and I say, this is Darrin on a stretcher being carried by another. What was happening there? Tell my viewers what this is.
I was in an awkward position to say the least. And the person behind me was helping me up. And like it was, and I'll tell you what happened. I thought I thought more happened than it actually did. I thought that there was like an ordinance that went off. And then I'm like, I went into oh shit mode. And then the person behind me is, no, it was like a backfire to a car or something like that. So that's why I'm laughing about it, because I immediately dove to the ground because I went into oh shit mode. But then it's like, okay, no, this is just, so it was just a funny thing, you know.
Whoa, look at this here. This is his official.
That's when I was,
yeah. You go ahead. You tell me.
All right, so this is basically my ID card when I was I guess I was a first lieutenant in this particular. The reason why this ID card was important, the reason why I posted this ID card in particular, because I just had a lot. I had a lot of memories throughout the course of this period. And that's why I have a picture of this ID card, you know, so there was just a lot of memories that happened as a related
first lieutenant rank, 02 pay grade. Does that mean you were getting $150 a year?
No. You have a second lieutenant, and then you have a first lieutenant, and then you have a captain, and then you have a major, a lieutenant colonel, general, all the way up.
So you made it to officer, right? You were up above the regular grunt, right? Is that first lieutenant or no?
Well, I mean, although yes, I mean, as an officer in the enlisted, you have two, you know, they're two different factions. It bifurcates in that the enlisted people, those are the people that wear the stripes.
Gotcha.
And the enlisted person. So I'm going to say the highest ranking enlisted person would be, like in the Army, it would be a sergeant major.
Right.
So so a sergeant major, like example, like there was a time where I was a company commander, and the sergeant major was the person that kind of like kept things in order for me. You know, he was my first sergeant. He kind of kept things in line. He was, but the enlisted people primarily, I want to say they're kind of like I gotta describe this to you. They're more, because we all work together. But in many instances, I find that they were the subject matter experts in a lot of instances. So let's say I have a platoon. Let's say when I was a platoon leader, for example, I would have a contingent of NCOs, senior NCOs, junior NCOs, and let's say privates and things to that effect. What I would do is I would give my directive to one of the senior NCOs, and I would say, look, this is what I'm looking to do. I want to do such and such and such. And that senior NCO would implement the policy. Now, I've been in situations whereas I've oftentimes lent deference to one of my senior NCOs on a particular subject matter. So let's say hypothetically, I was going into an area that I was unsure of. And I'll tell you, one of the things that, like land navigation, there's a thing that we do called land navigation when you go into a different area and you're trying to figure out like where you are, your coordinates and things to that effect. That's very important that you are sound with your land navigation. But what I found a lot of times at nighttime, your pace count is different at night than it is in the day. And I found, I've been in situations where, that's possibly, I fucked that up. And so I lend deference to certain other people and said, look, what are the coordinates? Where are we? Right. And so, and that person would be, that person in many cases, they were an enlisted person. Many times I've said, like, even from a disciplinary perspective, I've sat down with a first sergeant and said, yo, look, this is a situation. I want to take this person's head off. And then it turns into, okay,
yeah,
out of here. We're not
slow it down.
That's not.
So
Here's
the picture. Here's the full picture. You sent that to me through the cell phone. Yes. So it looks like you're on top of like a tank or a wall.
No. That was an area. That's why I ducked down. Like when you see this, that's why. And I was the only person that did that. I was the only person. Everybody, I was like, yeah, what the fuck are you doing? I'm like, oh, that's why I'm laughing about this as we speak.
I love it, Darrin. I love it, Darrin. Yeah. So I know that you're on a time limit here, and we're at the 7:30 hour. So this is the half-hour point. I gotta say, listen, it's a pleasure and an honor always to have you. My YouTube audience and my family, the DutyRon family, loves you. I gotta say, there's a ton of people, and maybe when you get time, I know you're a prominent man and busy. But when you get the chance, you come back and look at the chat, the replay of the chat, the comments that people leave down below for you. And I know a lot of my subscribers and my channel members, they go over to your social media and they leave you comments. And you know what they say to me? Darrin answers me back. And he's a good guy. So thank you.
I mean, I can even go over some of this stuff real quick because I'm still in a holding pattern for the other thing. So if you had some questions that you wanted to ask me in connection with things that your viewers had, I can answer those questions. So
if anybody wants to put a couple of questions in there, because now I have after this, I have a second guest waiting. I have a surprise guest after Dr. Darrin leaves. This guest is going to blow your mind, guys. I'll just give it away a little bit. She is a former military, and she's got a long line of military in her family. So she's going to be joining us after Darrin. Some of the questions that I got before the show, Darrin, were people asked if you enjoyed your service, and I know the answer to that question already. You almost answered it. And another thing was what made you decide to continue in law enforcement in the basically in a protect and serve type situation?
I'll tell you, when I was on active duty, I thought it sucked. But there were good points and bad points. I think, the camaraderie and the esprit de corps is something that keeps you together. Because, I was a teenager when I went on active duty in '86. Right. So a lot of it is like, I'm just trying to figure this thing out. And, like, I'll never forget, just going to boot camp. I'm looking for the wall every day. What did I sign up for? And then, you think about it. And then when the thing is over, you have a great admiration and respect for what you achieved throughout the course of that. Then you go through, the different schools and things like that. Then when I went through officer candidate school, OCS, it was a different ball game, man. I hated it from the day I walked in till the day I walked out. But I think it really bolsters who you are as a person and your ability to think. Linear thinking is, I think, one of the major advents that I was able to attach to in going through military service. And like, I give you an example. You and I were classmates in the police academy, and the police academy wasn't a big deal for me because I had just come out. I worked at the UN a
Hardcore.
year
Yeah,
prior to
hardcore.
coming into
Right.
the becoming a cop. But like I was still, from the fitness perspective, I was still where I needed to be.
Yeah, you were in
So,
top shape. You were the
yeah,
one that used to push me along when I would stop running. You were like, "Come on,
yeah.
Licati, let's
So,
go."
so that part was easy. So,
Yeah, yeah,
I want to say the disciplinary aspect, that was
right.
just kind of like a walk in the park. And I think that enhanced qualities in me that I didn't realize were necessary to be enhanced.
Yeah, yeah,
Being a cop, and I'm sure you felt this way too, man. Ron, I can't tell you how many times I'm sure you sat in that RMP, meaning the police car, and said, "This job sucks." On
yeah.
the
What am I
midnight,
doing
you
here?
and
Why?
Bishop driving around saying,
Yeah.
"Damn,
Oh, yeah.
we're fighting to stay awake." But then when we
Yeah.
look back on it, it really it left a pronounced indentation within our personalities
Right.
that's immeasurable. So a lot of times, you go through things and it's
Right.
like it's for the better, but we don't realize it until we're actually midway
Correct.
or all the way out. Like I remember like retiring from the NYPD. I was like, damn, man, I'm glad I'm out of here. But now I look back, there are a lot of beautiful memories and like, okay, this
Yeah.
happened.
Yeah, you miss stuff. And you know what? I got a sense of fulfillment because I knew that I did the best that I could with the tools that I had. There's one more question here. Trina Wise says, what is the one thing you miss serving most?
The one in serving in the military, or all right, I'll
I,
bifurcate it into two directions.
yeah, it's
The one
military.
thing I missed the most about the being in the military was I think the camaraderie was far more soundly structured than it was in a police department because you're thousands of miles away, man. 10,000 miles away from home, and so it's like you
Right.
go you step out of the green zone or wherever you are, man. It's like you're looking at these people, and it's like that you're an American, and
Yeah.
that these are people that'll kill you if they got the
Oh,
opportunity.
yeah.
That
If
was
they got
another thing about Iraq. A lot of people didn't realize, like, you had a lot of people that were loyal to Saddam Hussein and the Ba'ath Party, and they walked around like regular people, man. They worked in fish markets. I mean, they were common citizens in Baghdad, and you
right.
just didn't know who these people were. If the opportunity arose, then they would do what they could to cut your balls off. But by and large, when you would see these people, you just didn't know who was who. It wasn't
Right.
like they spoke a different language. So that was it was interesting in that, like, we could never go out on our own. Like if you
Right.
wanted to do something on your own, no, that's bullshit. So that level of camaraderie has been unmatched. So that was one of the things that I look back on and I said I've never experienced a level of camaraderie that was that dynamic um, eh, as to what I experienced there. In the police department, you had a level of camaraderie, but the one thing that you had that worked to your advantage as a cop, at the end of the day, you were able to go home. So you were, whether it was your wife, your children, your
Right.
girlfriends, you can live throughout the course of a normal civilian life. And then alarms, like that was another thing, like in the, what do you call it? We used to wear, in the military, we used to wear these things called mop suits. So like whenever the alarm would go off, you would have to put on your gas mask, your chem gear. So let's say it can be 115 degrees outside, and this suit doesn't breathe, man. It's charcoal lined. It's we refer to this NBC training, and
Wow.
so you're putting this thing on as quick as you're drenched, man. You're losing
Holy
weight, like you're sweating up a storm. You're 115 degrees. It gets to the point where you gotten used to it. That sucked balls.
balls.
But you had to gain a level of competency, screwing on that filter, putting on that mask, getting that hood, don that hood. So
Right.
if there was a gas attack, you were prepared, because
Right.
it was one of the things that was that was promulgated was Saddam Hussein had these weapons of mass destruction, and many of them were biological weapons, chemical and biological weapons that were
Wow.
used in the war that Iraq had with Iran prior to that. So there was still a stockpile of these weapons. So we had a fear of that. And I'm just so glad I'm out of that shit.
Yeah. Wow. And glad that you made it out in one piece. And that brings me to my next thing is, like, so many soldiers, men and women, leave the service injured, limbs missing, mental, defects and, PTSD and some of the questions. And there was a lot of actually questions like that. And I wasn't going to ask you it, but quite a few people go in the direction of, hey, what type of effect did this have on you with your service over the years, physically, mentally? How did it take a toll on you, per se, Dr. D? I think that's
no, easy question. I beat my wife. I beat my kids. I beat my
whoa.
coworkers. Yeah, murdered
Where's
my
the
neighbors.
mute button?
That was what it was. Matter of fact, this one right now. Pow! No. Now, it's the weirdest thing. Like when we think about post-traumatic stress disorder, I managed a lot of that with, I was the executive officer, or I was a company commander at one point. So a lot of those issues came to my doorstep, and they were really challenging issues. And one thing that I always tried to do was, if this was something that fell outside of my wheelhouse, I would bring in one of the psychologists or one of the medical practitioners and have them drive that machine, because you don't want a person that is experiencing post-traumatic stress disorder to be a part of your platoon that can subsequently upset the apple cart. We have one of those moments in the shit. Like, let me give you an example. We had one of these. It wasn't a drill. It was a real alarm that went off. For a chemical weapon. So everyone is donning their NBC suit, meaning it's a hood, it's a chem warfare mask, there's a filter, and then you have to get into the suit. Right. And I remember once I had a situation with one of my troops. I think he was like a sergeant first class too. He ran out there without putting on his stuff, because we sheltered in place. We had areas that we sheltered in because there was an attack. And this is one of these days you can hear the bombs. At the time, Saddam was using these things, Scud missiles. You can feel you can feel the ground shaking because the bombs were dropping. And this guy ran the fuck out there, and he didn't have his mop suit on. And this was something that happened early, and someone else told me that, this is a guy that was going through it. And I remember the commander at the time, and, God bless his soul, man. He was one of these guys that we only have one army. You go to war with the army that you have, and you do the best that you can with what you have. And I was from the school of, look, hold on. If we have a broken toy, and we can't fix this broken toy, we need to send this to a place where they can possibly fix it, because I didn't want fractured people from a mental state that were a part of my platoon. And so that doesn't mean that you're going home. I'm the first person to say, no, you're not going home, but we're going to send you somewhere else. So that being said, he ran out there, man, when the alarm went off, and the shit is going off, man. And it was like, man, that day after the alarm cleared, I shipped him. I sent him. I psyched this guy, and it just goes back to, there were a lot of people. I want to say everyone had a bout with some level of post-traumatic stress disorder, because when you're that far away, you become homesick. You're thinking about what's happening at home. You had guys that had their wives that were fucking around on them, and vice versa, and they're experiencing this shit when they're in the theater, in the theater of battle, and there's nothing that you can do about it. I'm not a psychiatrist. I laugh and joke about this stuff, but I don't want to say I would tell people to grit and bear it, but right now, this is what's in front of you. Your pathway back home is through here. So I just need you to manage this. I've had senior NCOs break down. I've had times where I was like, oh man, this is crazy. But you know what? You get through it. And then I think a problem that we had with that was a lot of people bottled up. They kept that same mindset of, look, I'm going to grit and bear it, and I'm going to tough it out. And it was bottled up in them. So when they came back home, they never really had the ability to let it out, so to speak, when they were over there, to scream and say, fuck this, it sucks. They get back here, and then that's when the shit really manifested. And then the VA didn't really do a good job in terms of managing post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
A lot of it evolved around giving people opioids and a bunch of other drugs that fucked them up in other ways, man. And that being said, I've been fortunate, so I've never experienced post-traumatic stress disorder from the police department or in the military. The only post-traumatic stress disorder I experienced is being on DutyRon's podcast when we run over the time.
Ron Daniels, thank you so much for the $20 super chat. Yeah, so many great comments coming through. I mean, there's some people here that have served in Vietnam. There's so many, positive comments like, how could you listen? Signing up for the military, the police department is a whole different animal. But signing up for the military, you're agreeing to go overseas or wherever it goes and protecting our constitution and our land from enemies, foreign and domestic, right? So that means that you could be, like Darrin says, over in Nicaragua, wherever. It doesn't matter. Yeah, in Fallujah, wherever it takes you, wherever it takes you, and you're away from your family, as he said. With the police department, you can pretty much sign out at the end of your tour and go home to see your family. So it is not an easy thing. So that's why I tip my cap to guys like Darrin Porcher, Dr. D, and all the men and women who do sign up for military service. It is an honor always to give thanks and praise to people who put their lives on the line for our freedoms. So this comes to me as second nature. It doesn't matter if there's 100 people here watching or 22. I know YouTube is having a little trouble with live streaming tonight, so we're buffering and we're not.
Yeah, so we're missing Tony Shields.
We're missing Tony Shields, for crying out loud. But what's going to happen is I'm going to upload this as a video and then re-upload it as a premiere, and we'll show it maybe tomorrow night or something like that. But we did have a little bit of hiccups, but just consider the small group that we have here. It's in the 20s. Usually I have close to 100 people watching, so that's how I know that
I'm on the low end here.
Yeah, we're on the low end, Darrin, but it's all about bandwidth and what's going on the internet. So it is what it is. Listen, people here, listen, Mimi, where it's hard to keep it clean when you're talking about some military grunts. Dr. Darrin is a military grunt. So
Mimi, I'm sorry, I'm not keeping it clean. My apologies. Okay.
He's using some explicit language because it comes straight from the heart. We asked him to be frank with us.
I apologize, Mimi,
about his military service, but it is what it is. It's all good, Darrin.
I will no longer bleep and curse. Okay,
I have the bleep
use my
machine.
own edits here,
Darrin. I have the bleep machine here, but I don't have it turned on for you. Look, the bleep machine is here, but I opted not to turn it on for you because it's a genuine. This is all straight from the hip. So don't worry
over here acting up.
It's all good. It's all good. All right, Darrin, I appreciate you coming in. Much love.
Ron, as always, it's a pleasure. Okay.
Come
God
back
bless
anytime
you.
soon. Yes.
God bless your family. And more importantly, God bless all of your listeners. And I thank you all as listeners for supporting DutyRon, because this is how we get reality into the forefront as opposed to the negative media or the quote unquote fake news that's plaguing us as a society, right?
Yeah.
Real talk with a real guy.
There you go. Thank you. And a real American hero right here. Dr. Darrin, thank you so much for your service. God bless you and your family. I hope I can deliver the mask that Meg in Southern California, she sent you a blue line mask. I have it in my drawer here.
Okay.
It says Dr. Darrin. So next time when we get together and have a lunch, I think you owe me. I think you owe Meg Lowe. She's always on your stuff. She's
all right, Meg, thank you so much. I really appreciate the mask. You said I owe you.
You owe me a dinner for the surveillance that I did in Union.
Yes, I do.
I'm not going to forget that because it was pouring rain. It was.
Yeah, I know. You went out there, DutyRon.
Yeah, I had a pastrami hero here that I left to go out and watch this
guy services at my disposal. So, hey, but not for nothing, Ron. It's not like I have alligator arms. I did take the last time we went out. I paid, right?
Oh, that's right, you did. But I'm looking for another alligator.
But I'm okay with paying again. Okay. Love you, brother.
Thank you.
I love you, and more importantly, I love your followers. And just continue And thank you so much for affording me the platform to speak the truth as opposed to
Anytime.
fake news.
Anytime, brother. Anytime. Stay safe, and I'll talk to you soon. All right, guys. That was Dr. Darrin Porcher. What a pleasure to have him on here. Now, I got to tell you, my next guest, this woman is a true American hero. She served her country. She continues to serve her brothers and sisters in blue. She's a true crime supporter across the platform. She is a true sister. I truly love her and respect her. Retired Sergeant Melinda, thank you so much for being in here tonight. Thank you for waiting.
Can y'all hear me?
Of course, we hear you. We love you. There she
Hey,
is.
I love everybody. How are y'all?
Thank you, Sergeant Melinda, for waiting in the lobby while Dr. Darrin told his dirty jokes and his army stories.
I know all
but that
about
was
it.
that was real raw life, and you know all about it. The photos and pictures that she shared with me today were tremendous. I got to say thank you for your service. Thank you for your daddy, your granddaddy, all of your family members and brothers and sisters who served our country. I tip my cap to you.
Well, thank
Really.
you. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
everybody's support. We all appreciate it. We really do.
And you know
Very
something?
humbling.
Everybody sees your generosity across the platform, and I know that comes straight from the heart. But I want to say this is your day, and this is a time for us as American citizens and as good people of this land to say thank you, to give thanks and praise to the men and women of our military. So no matter what you did and no matter where you were assigned, you took that oath and you fulfilled your duty. So God bless you. I really, really appreciate you not only coming on here, because I know that was a big thing for you, but I'm honored that you entrust me to come on for one of your first live streams on YouTube.
Yeah,
right?
isn't it great? This is great.
I'm so used to seeing you on the other end, so
I
I'm so happy. And I
hey,
wore my
hey,
sergeant.
How's everybody? I just want to give a shout out to everybody. I love y'all. Y'all just keep on keeping on, okay?
You can see the chat, right, in your on your phone.
Actually.
You should be able to see it. All you have to do is
well, I have the phone turned sideways.
All right, I don't want you to get confused, but there's comments on the side. If you click the comments, they'll come up. But I don't want you to get disconnected.
Yeah, hold on. Stand by.
There's a little sub bar that says comments. So maybe take a peek at it there. It should be on the side. I don't know if you could see it.
I don't know. I'm new to this. I don't want to hang up.
Yeah. So
anyway,
don't do it.
I
Don't
love
do
everybody. I'm so glad. I'm just so glad to be here. Really.
Yes. Well, here, Sandy Lee she guessed. Sandy Lee is in the chat, and she guessed when I said I have a female guest who served our country. And you know what her first words were? Is it Sergeant Melinda? Is it retired sergeant? And I was like, I didn't say yes or no, but there's a lot of love. I'm going to tell you, Kim McDonald, Sandy Lee, Maddie Boy Sully, Mama Shan says, tell her she's the best. B Higgs says, so glad she's on. Cindy Friggan says, love you, Melinda. Alice Watts says, thank you for your service. And Mama Shan says, she's been so supportive with me. She's been supportive
I love her.
You're supportive with everybody. And you know this because we've had conversations off of YouTube, how much I appreciate what you do for everybody, not just for me, what you do for the community. And you are definitely, this is your day. This is the day to give thanks and praise to our men and women of the military. And it came as second nature for me to reach out to you. I didn't think you would say yes.
Wow.
So when you said yes, I was so honored and I was so shocked.
Wow.
So Melinda, I'm really so happy that you are here. Do you want to tell maybe some of the viewers what you do, maybe some of what you did or part of what you did? It's up to you.
Yeah. I mean, Darrin was, he was amazing. I'm going to tell you that. Like, I was tracking him 110%, I was in 3 wars and the deployment, which pretty much everything he said, is pretty much the truth. And then, but see, I was, I had the honor, and I changed my MOS quite, like he did. I was a combat medic in transportation, boots on the ground.
Awesome.
So we lived in the trucks. We lived in the
Wow.
trucks. So we did come upon hostile fire. And the rules of engagement changed quite often, yeah, they'll always be your family, no matter what. I mean, they are my family. But yeah, I had the honor working with the CID, federal CID government.
Awesome.
Then I was in transportation, and I was a medic, a nurse.
I love it.
And then whenever, the explosion, the convoy was attacked, and there are RPGs, IEDs, as he said, small arms fire. And, but I'll tell you, one thing that I absolutely loved is, and I get emotional about this,
It's okay.
is
It's okay.
the love that we all together as comrades, but before each mission and before each, for each
Tour of
mission,
duty. Yeah.
well, no, but when we'd stop and stage, and then because it's hostile, it's red zone, then we would have to stop at a fob area, is what it's called. Because we traveled all the way from Kuwait all the way up north, like to Pakistan, across the Euphrates River. I mean, I have so many beautiful, though, pictures of the little kids that are, refugees. But
Right.
we would pray, always. We would
Beautiful.
pray. And so when our truck got hit, they'll like, sadly, I just want to, give a shout out to all my brothers and sisters that I served with, but yeah, it's very humbling. It's very humbling, to be alive, but to know how much we have it so good here. We have it so good here in America. And when you come back, you're just like, wow, it blows your mind, and it changes you. It changes your heart. It changes your way of thinking.
I love to hear you talk about it, because it comes so much from your heart. I can hear it in your voice. I can feel it through the live stream here. I have a picture of you in the Hummer, in the Humvee, in the back. It looks like riding with the laptop there. Tell us a little bit about this picture, where you were, and when it was taken.
I believe we had stopped at, because we traveled just within 6 months. We had traveled over 233,000 miles. And,
Wow.
these trucks on a mission were like within the 6 months, because it went 6 months, every other 6 months, and then it went to every 12 months, and then every 15 months.
Right.
So, yeah, we would goof around and try to have fun. We could, but this is Sergeant Dixon. He's actually now a police officer, a detective.
Whoa.
Yeah,
The gentleman right next to you on the other side.
right next to me. Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
it
sir.
looks like there's laundry detergent in between the two of you. My detective eyes is picking that out.
Hey, it's great. We were chilling out in the Humvee and watching a movie on the laptop, and we were staged at, I believe, near Anaconda.
Okay.
So that was before the Euphrates River, before you pass. But yeah, that's what we do. We just watch, on downtime, just watch, and then do our laundry.
You could see the picture,
can.
right? You could see this picture, right,
I
Melinda?
can.
All right.
And actually, we all are given the scarf that's on our head. And that's actually Psalms 91 we would wear
Oh, okay.
under our Kevlars.
I was going to ask. I was going to ask about that. I
Yeah.
thought maybe it was something that was required for females to
Actually,
wear, or no?
actually, that we all would wear underneath our Kevlars, but then there was orders, you know, like, you can't be doing that, blah blah blah.
Right.
But you
Well,
know,
let's look at this next picture. Tell us about this picture
oh,
here.
well, that is my grandfather,
God
and
bless.
that is him. He served in World War II. He's just a youngin, and that is my mother. That's my mother's father. He was a very good man,
This is him here
and
too, right?
altogether, yes, sir. Altogether, they had 11 children,
Wow.
and out of those 11 children, I have like two two other uncles that had also served. So serving on both sides of my family through my greats, you know, my uncles, cousins, my sister, actually, I love my sister, and she served. She
God
served as
bless.
well.
So many
Isn't that a
in your
neat
family.
picture?
Yeah, that's a great picture. I'm keeping it up. You know, I looked at this picture today, and you and I spoke about it, and you know, she gave me approval to show these pictures, obviously,
Yeah.
beforehand. She sent me so many more photos, and you know, a lot of them were personal photos, and I thank you for sharing those with me, because it really gave me a look into your the beautifulness of your family. So
Aw.
thank you so much for sharing you know, there's a DutyRon mug. There it is.
Oh
Put
yeah,
it up to
I
the
love
camera.
it.
There it is. DutyRon merch. Sergeant Melinda, have a cup of tea or something out of her DutyRon cup.
I
Thank you.
am.
Thank you for that.
No, thank you. I actually got two of them.
Mm, wow. I'm going to
And
put
I
it
love my
full screen.
socks.
I want to put this full screen for everybody. So just, you're going to be out and I'm going to be out for a minute. So
Okay.
there's her grandpa. And it says, I miss him so much, with the prayer emojis and broken heart and the American flag and the sad face. So these are wonderful personal photos of her long line of family service to our country. And she's getting emotional there on me. And I love that
That's
you are
okay.
full of emotion. That's one of the things that struck me about you is, you know, not only were you in the military, but you continue to support your brothers and sisters in the military,
I
in the
do.
law enforcement field. And we've spoken so many times about the importance of caring and backing each other up and providing
Yeah.
emotional and physical support, whether it's on the phone or through emails or text messages. This is an
Right.
important thing for us to know as Americans. When I would go to John F. Kennedy Airport and see the warriors coming home from battle, and I would go out there and, you know, clap it up for them and just
That's
give them
awesome.
hugs and high fives. It meant so much to them. And I encourage people to get out and support your men and women who served in our military. When they come home, it's not an easy transition. So you know, that's the message of tonight. And you know, I wanted to keep this as short as possible, and it looks like we're already into almost close to an hour of the live.
Ooh.
Melinda, anything else you have to say to the DutyRon family? Because I'm going to re-upload this, because we're
Okay.
having issues with buffering and everything like that.
Oh.
So
Okay.
it's going to stay as a live, but I'm recording it, and then I'll
Okay.
replay it as a premiere, and we can all sit and watch it together.
How
You know,
awesome.
maybe a Friday night we'll play it as a you know, as a premiere upload. So I'm honored to have you, Melinda, and I'm so
Well,
thankful to you and all of your family and all of the military families out there. Anybody who has got injured while serving our great nation,
yeah.
and to the men and women who are now boots on the ground in foreign
Yeah.
territories, protecting our freedoms, but also going out and protecting the freedoms of other countries. You know, we do humanitarian missions as military as well. We're not just over there, you know, killing people. We're, you know, fixing infrastructure. We're helping to bring, you know, structure into other countries politically, and have a democratic type society. brought up in other countries and other lands. So it's important that we get behind these people. And again, anybody that's in the chat, anybody who's given super chat, it looks like Ron Daniels, thank you so much for that. Can you see the chat now, Melinda, or no?
I can't, but I still am waving with my love and everything. I just don't want to mess it up. But if they have any questions, but when I was talking about the explosion, I'm
Can
gonna
you
tell
see
you
these questions that I put up on the bottom?
I can.
Mimi J.
That's a nice
All right, so I'm gonna
mug.
I'm gonna look for some questions. You keep talking. I love to listen to you talk with that Southern accent.
Oh my gosh, I don't have no accent. What are you talking about? I love y'all's accent.
Y'all, I don't have no accent. I love y'all.
I do want to say and mention, I love my veterans. I still work with veterans today, my brothers and sisters before me, during or even after. But go out and support the Wounded Warrior program. I was in the Wounded Warrior program when I was injured. And I'm going to tell you, there's a lot for us to be thankful for. Many came back. Many did not come back. I have blood family that didn't come back. My other brothers and sisters in arms did not come back. That's hard. And then you see them come back with their arm, with they're lost, limbs. But also PTSD is real, and it happens not just to, military officers, firefighters, rescue, domestic DV. It happens, but look, don't lose hope and know that there's definitely help out there. If not, I don't know how many times I say it. I'm here. I'm always here. If anybody needs to talk, I still get phone calls, I am here. I truly am, because I love y'all. I do.
It's a beautiful message. It's a really important message. Wounded Warriors is a great program. Tracy Harvey, channel member, Patreon supporter,
Thank you,
and
Tracy.
a great friend. Tracy is over in Indiana. She grew up with Suzanne Morphew. Okay. So she is from Suzanne's hometown, and she's been emotionally charged up and affected by this, and we know that. I want to just say quickly while we're on that topic, Gene Mormon, Suzanne's father, passed away this morning. So may Gene rest in peace. Andy, they lost a great man. Very sad situation over at the, with what's going on here. So to lose, there's your puppy. Love it.
Yeah, he's my service dog. He can sense I'm emotional, and I have to tell him I'm okay. Look,
right. So, again, we're constantly reminded that, oh, look at that. So cute. Look at him.
Hold on, he's getting me all tangled up.
Dogs are the best. Yeah, he's going to eat your microphone. He's going to eat your microphone. Yeah, he's got it. He's in there. He's not going anywhere.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It's all right. Don't worry about it.
Hold on. Let me put my mic back in.
It's okay.
Okay.
So yeah, a lot of support for you, Tracy. Thank you for the generous super chat. Thank you, Tracy.
Thank you, Tracy.
And again, Tracy is one of my really, really great friends. She's been with me for a long time.
I'm praying.
She says, in memory, that super chat was in memory of her dad, U.S. Navy Korean vet. May he rest in peace and continue.
Him. God bless him.
Major respect. And so
I just love hearing of all of them, bringing their family in, like talking about, my grandfather or my brother served. It's beautiful. I love it.
It's really a great thing. I want to show quickly a picture of Gene. I'm going to put on Suzanne Morphew's grandfather. This is a picture from Profiling Evil. They did such a great job with bringing some comfort to Gene temporarily. This was during their live stream, so this was a screen grab from Profiling Evil. I encourage anybody who watches this replay to go over and watch their interview with Gene Mormon on their live stream. They just unbelievable service that they did for the Suzanne Morphew and the Mormon family. providing their website and getting Dr. Phil and getting all the notoriety. Jeep Girl, thank you so much for that $20 super chat. Much, much appreciated. So there's Gene. May he continue to rest in peace. I know he died sad about his daughter, but now they're probably reunited as what we would think as good Christians. Let me get that Jeep Girl super chat up there so we can show that. Thank you for your service, Melinda. From Jeep Girl, $20.
Thank you, Jeep Girl. Thank you for your
channel
donation.
member. She's a Patreon supporter. She is a wonderful, wonderful friend of the DutyRon family. As we're all family here.
We're all sisters and brothers, you know?
Sisters and brothers, absolutely.
You know, divided we fall, but, you know, united we stand.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
You say it so well. You say it so well. So Tracy's putting a little message up there. I'm going to put that on there. Thank you. Dad passed this July. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, Tracy. I'm going to be praying for you. Okay. I have my prayers. I pray for a long, long, long time. I do. I pray like several times a day. So I definitely keep many or all of y'all in my prayers, you know.
Yeah.
I do. It's sad about, you know, like you said, Mr. Gene, but I immediately went into prayer when I found out about that. And I just got this beautiful feeling, you know, he's with his daughter, he's with his wife, he's with his family. And, but it's a tragedy, but you know, there is justice coming for her soon, you know?
Yes. Let's, you know, continue to pray. And if guys can put some prayer emojis in the chat. I'd like to end this live stream on a high note. God is good. We do have each other, and this is a strong community that we have here. Listen, I'm not all about numbers and subscribers. It's good to have them, but I feel comfortable where I'm at and what we have going on here. I'm honored and humbled by the interaction that I get from all of you guys whenever I go live, even after the live streams are over. The interaction that happens in the chat down below is tremendous. You guys are wonderful, wonderful people. So I tip my cap to all the great Americans and all of the great foreigners who are from other countries that support us, from the UK, from New Zealand, from Australia, from the Netherlands, from I have Saudi Arabians. I have a ton of people from France, Nabil, so many great ones that are in here. So Sergeant Melinda, thank you for your service. Thank you for coming on this live stream. I wish we could just keep going, but I got to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning to head into the city. So,
well, let me tell you, it's a true honor and a blessing that you even asked me, and to be able to be here and to discuss this about Veterans Day. So I just want to thank you for everything that you do and everything that you have done. And still always will be praying for you. I know about your mommy and your dad. And so, you know, you're an amazing man. You really are. Your wife, she's awesome, and she's beautiful too.
Thank you. Thank you. I am lucky. I'm blessed and lucky, and I don't take it for granted. So again, I want to say thank you to all my Patreon supporters, my channel members, and everyone who subscribes. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell. Follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, all one word, DutyRon. Subscribe to the channel, leave interaction and comments. Let the ads roll. If you can't afford Super Chat or financially, it's okay. You're always welcome here. It doesn't matter. I have an Amazon affiliate link. If you shop, if any of the ladies like to shop, use the Amazon affiliate link. A small portion goes to me, and it doesn't cost you anything. So thank you, Dave in Osaka. That's Osaka, Japan. Dave in Osaka, you know him.
Hi, Dave. Yes,
say
my
hi.
buddy.
Let me get him up close.
Love you.
Yep, I'll get her up close. And she's got her pooch there. Dave, Sergeant Melinda served our country and was in the service. So we are saying thank you on Veterans Day to Sergeant Melinda. She is awesome, awesome. Retired Sarge. I appreciate it. Maddie Boy Sully, awesome. I sent you a link, but I guess you didn't have time to come up. Thank you, Maddie Boy Sully, for your service in the Marines. God bless you. And
Maddie, we wanted to see you.
Yeah, I would have loved to have had him, but there's always another time. We can always have him another time. All right, guys. Good night from New York City. Love and respect from me and Sergeant Melinda. Sarge, don't go anywhere. We'll talk a little bit after this is over. All right,
Okay.
guys. Thank you for
Bye,
joining.
y'all.
God bless the world. God bless the United States of America. And God bless each and every one of you here in the chat. Love and respect.
Love y'all.
Peace.